Well, 10 years ago today. 10 years. Wow, that used to seem like such a long time. Lately, it doesn't really seem like very long at all. But 10 years ago, 10 years ago, I'm going to say in January now. I think it was January 14th, yeah. 10 years ago, the Winter Olympics were in Vancouver. So all of the best athletes came from all over the world for winter sports in probably the one place in Canada where there isn't ever really winter. But they came to Vancouver. It was great. There was all of these athletes. It was awesome, right? It was pretty exciting. But it's the Olympics, right? So when they have the Olympics, they always have a big fire, like a cauldron, like a super large fire pit that's all fancy. And the fire in that burns for the whole time that the Olympics are going on, right? But to get the fire there, it actually comes from Greece, like the other side of the world. I have no idea how they transport it on a plane or boat or however they do that kind of thing. But I know that for the Winter Olympics that year, when it got to Canada, to Newfoundland, they had some elite super athletes who were trained they were just the greatest athletes in Canada, who ran a torch across the country. And the way they did that was everybody got, each person in that group of super elite athletes, Lori, I'll just say that again. The way they did that was everybody ran for three kilometers. And you had a torch. And it actually kind of looked like a big stick with fire on the end of it. But you light that, you run your 3 kilometers, and then the next person's waiting there, and you pass the flame to them. You pass the fire onto their torch. And Lori got to do that. She was one of the super elite athletes. You're denying it now, but you were a super athlete then. But you still are. I'm not saying you aren't. I'm just, you okay. So, Lori ran, and that was a picture you saw when Learning Together came up, is Lori ran 3 kilometers basically around Innisfail, Alberta. And she had a really cool outfit, and she had this. This is the actual torch that Lori had in her hand. This is heavy, by the way, and she had to run 3 kilometers with it on fire. You can see how it's all black on this end, and that's from the flame. It had oil or kerosene or something in it. Propane? It was something that burned. And so this end was on fire, and she ran for 3 kilometers holding this. Imagine that. I don't even know how you did it. But I was there, so I know you did. Anyway, everybody had one of these, and they'd run for 3 kilometers on fire, and then they'd pass the flame to the next person. And of course, that's how they started out, right? Somebody passed the flame to them. And you run the best you can for your 3 kilometers. I think there was some elderly people who were involved in this too, so they might have walked, or some younger people who might have, but you carry this the best you can for the 3 kilometers that you have the flame. And you pass it on, and you pass it on, and pass it on until it gets to Vancouver and lights the Olympic flame. I think that sometimes we forget that a flame has been passed to us. It's really easy to not remember it this way. But you know, when Jesus was here and the disciples were following him around and he was doing stuff and he was teaching them how to do stuff, he was here. But when he left, it would have been really easy for the disciples to go, well, that's that then. He's gone. It's never going to be like that again. And the thing is, they're not right about the first part, but they're right about the second part. Jesus is gone in person, and it isn't going to be the same, but he's still here. He's still here because he passed the torch to the disciples and to his followers. And he said, you go and do, I showed you everything, go and do that now. He passed the torch. And fortunately, the first disciples and the first followers of Jesus did just that. They went and did as Jesus said they should, and they passed the torch to others, who passed it to others, who passed it to others, that brought us here. We're all different, and all of the people who carried the torch were different. But the flame is still there. The love that Jesus taught and shared is still there. And so Jesus passes the torch to the disciples, who pass it to others, who pass it to others, who bring it here today. And now it's our turn. And it's our turn to live that love of Jesus the way we do, so that we can pass the torch on to someone else when it's time for us to go too. So this is an actual Olympic torch from the 2010 Winter Olympics in Vancouver that was carried by Lori around Innisfail. The flame was passed to her. She passed it to somebody else. It doesn't look like much now because its time is done. But even though its time is done, we still have it. We still remember. We still know. We still remember the experience. We still share the experience with others. And that's the important part too, is that it's not just when this is burning, but the memory of it as well, the remembrance of it too. I'm going to put it back in its sacred cardboard box. And we're going to sing a song, Jesus' Hands Were Kind Hands, that remind us about how our hands can be just like Jesus' hands too, because these are the hands that hold the torch.